So, Stormy, you've been quite active in the wake of Hurricane Ida with your apocalypse crew. Who are these folks? First of all, who are these folks and what have you been doing? If you would, catch us up on the life of Stormy. Is there like any interesting political encounters that you can share with my listeners?
Okay, so this wasn't something that I planned to do, obviously. I decided to stay I live in New Orleans, for those who don't know, I'm from here. And we made the decision to stay and ride out the storm. The city spent over $1 billion after Katrina to redo the levees and the system. So I had a lot of faith in it. I know that the house that I live in now is solid brick. It withstood Katrina. It did get a little water in it for the first storm, but I decided to take my chances and ride it out. The issue, politically speaking, that there's been a lot of fallout about is that our mayor, LaToya Cantrell, did not make evacuation mandatory. So most of the deaths that have happened here in the city were post-storm. There were people who couldn't leave because their insurance wouldn't cover it because the evacuation wasn't mandatory. And we've had a lot of deaths this week from people not having food and water and power. And they chose to stay. Some of these people who definitely should have left made the decision to stay because they couldn't get reimbursement from their insurance. Insurance won't cover things if the evacuation wasn't mandatory. So I knew that was going to happen. This is one of those instances where I am not happy to be right because I do love to be right, but not in this case. And so the storm happened. Obviously, the entire city lost power. I was fortunate. I didn't have any damage to my house. And I have a generator. I pulled it out of my horse trailer and was able to fire up the refrigerator and all of that stuff. And I'm much more fortunate than most of the other people here. So obviously, as we know, the government and aid was very slow to respond. I still haven't heard very much. So we got to work very next morning with a group of friends of mine, and they're just sort of the rejects in the city, like I'm a porn star. We have musicians and punks and goth kids and artists and tattoo artists, these kind of people who are normally would be considered the outsiders of society. And while the churches were shut down and the government was shut down and there was none of these normal people that are supposed to be the do-gooders, here we have these outcasts. We got together and I dubbed us the apocalypse crew because literally we strapped our boots on, we're climbing on each other's roofs, putting tarps up. I started work right away, delivering food and I had a working car and a generator and people were putting food in the people's houses that could save it. And I was fortunate there's a couple of places here in town. And for any listeners who live in New Orleans, I just have to give a big shout out to these two businesses. One is Bar Redux. They donated all of their food and we were able to feed about 200 people a day for 7 days. They allowed us to go in and barbecue in their place and we all got together. And the other place is Courtyard Brewery over on Camp Street. And, the first they did was they donated all their beer so it wouldn't go bad, which, after a storm, some people need a drink. But he also opened up his facility, which is huge, and we've used it as a donation center. And every day we filled trucks. And now that New Orleans is getting back on its feet just a little bit, we're focusing on Homa and the Bayou parishes, which still do not have power. So it's just been all day, every day. And we just got this group together and was like, you know what? Fuck it. We'll just do it ourselves. And I cut out the middleman is what I did. I had people just direct message me on Twitter and Instagram. I had a lady in Spain, for instance, she's an exchange student. And she was like, I can't reach my parents. It's been 3 days. They're elderly. They don't have a way to plug their phones in to call for help. I was able to charge my phone in the car, but a lot of people don't have that. And she's like, I haven't had any contact with them. And they're not in a nursing home. They're not on any sort of a list. Can you go check on them? And sure enough, I brought them food. They hadn't eaten in a couple of days. There was another lady down in Gentilly that I went to bring food to because her niece or nephew couldn't get back into the city and they were concerned about her. And this is one of the saddest fucking things I've ever seen in my life. I got there and her wheelchair had stopped working and she hadn't been able to use the bathroom in 2 days. So I had to help her. So there's just, because the evacuation wasn't mandatory, you have these people who were they just fell through the cracks. But then you have other people who their relatives have entrusted them with what they thought was the right thing. And fuck this motherfucker. His name is Bob Dean. I don't know if you've heard about this, Michael, but his business is nursing homes, which is exactly what he treats it as, a business. And he has donated to a lot of politicians. Just, so I'm sure he's someone that have come across the likes of. Anyway, he has a bunch of nursing homes in Louisiana. And I think on record, he had between 650 and 700 patients. Turns out it was more like 850. So where are all these unaccounted for people? But he took all of his residents from his nursing home and he put them on fucking buses. And this is so fucked up. He put them in a warehouse and left them for days and several of them passed away. And their families couldn't find them. He just skipped town. He took all of these elderly disabled people and put them on air mattresses in a warehouse and fucking left. And
ultimately, I'm sure then he will end up facing, or he better be facing, the law. We had that same sort of nonsense going on here in New York with the nursing home scandal that ultimately it was part of the scenario that caused Andrew Cuomo the loss of his office as governor. I hope this guy sees the Department of Justice, and I hope they come to see him.
Oh, I do too. But here's the thing. He had complaints from years previous, and he didn't have an evacuation plan. And this all goes back to the fact that the mayor of New Orleans did not issue a mandatory evacuation, so they weren't required to follow it. And I just don't understand how people just, do this. When the emergency workers went in, there were people, these elderly folks, just laying on air mattresses in their own urine, and some of them were in standing water. And like I said, some of them have died, have passed away. And then there was another an apartment building, assistant living apartment building, or here, that the power went out, which means that the elevator stopped working. So you have all these residents that are in wheelchairs or using walkers that were stranded up high, and they weren't forced to evacuate because, the hurricane isn't what caused the problem. It was loss of power, and then they can't get down. And so we were having to bring up ice and things like that. And so now there's just been a big backlash with the local politicians, and a couple of crazy people are trying to talk me into running for mayor because, that's a good idea. Fuck. But I do have the perfect campaign slogan. Stormy Daniels, you've definitely voted for worse.
I like that. But you know what I don't? Yeah, Stormy, you know what I don't like? I don't like the fact that you call yourselves outsiders, because whether you're a tattoo artist, whether you're in adult film entertainment, whatever your profession might be, you did really good things for a lot of people who needed it. Picture if you didn't do it. It's very easy for people to sit back and say, oh, I would have done it. I would have done it. It's another thing to actually pick your ass up like you did and go find food, go find things for people to drink and to eat when people are at their absolute worst. And that's really what being American is all about. It's something that, Trump administration had ripped apart, Republican versus. I can guarantee right now that you didn't go over to people and ask them as they were standing on line at that bar in order to pick up food, are you Republican or are you Democrat? They were just Louisianans, just like you. And for that, you should really be commended. It has nothing to do with outsiders and insiders, the do-gooders. They're full of shit, most of them anyway. They'll write a check, they'll send it off and think that that's about, the most that they can do. And better than anybody it's not.
No, of course. And I don't feel like an outsider, but we're perceived outsiders. But I can tell you right now, none of us were outsiders. We were all definitely on the inside here. It was like the first episode of The Walking Dead. I was trading bottles of water to this person for a pack of diapers to go deliver to this woman who had a baby, and her newborn was wrapped in a diaper when I got there because and I'm trading cans of beefaroni out of the back of my car for a pack of cigarettes. Sounds more to me
like Burning Man. You'd be like a pro at that, right? It's like, I'll trade you like 6 pieces of toilet paper for a bottle of water.
It smells about as bad.
Yeah, so sorry to hear that one.
Our trash still hasn't been picked up. It's been 2 weeks.
Ugh. Well, look, I understand that you've become an expert on the occult from your show, Spooky Babes. First of all, I'd like to know, how is it doing? I have just over 68 days left, me personally, on the Cohen home confinement calendar. And I would love to know what's in store for my future, because I understand that you do those readings. And I understand that you do what they call tarot cards. I've never actually had a reading done, so that I was hoping that you'd give me a reading while we're here together on Mea Culpa.
Sure, that'd be interesting. So I don't actually do tarot cards. I do oracle cards. Just to clarify, it's a little bit different for anyone who's listening that actually knows about this sort of thing. And the show's doing well. I put a little pause on it because I don't know if you know this or not, but we have 13 episodes filmed, but I did The Surreal Life, and we shot in Mexico, and that's going to start airing at the end of the month. And it's going to be very interesting to watch. Of course, it all depends on how they edit it. But I was, the last person to come onto the show, and I can't reveal too much, but I will tell you that everyone hated me the first 2 episodes. And by the end, I had read everyone's cards, and they all said that I was very accurate. So I'm looking forward to see how that goes. But if you want me to pull some cards for you, I can. Are you scared?
I would. Not particularly. Look, I've been to Otisville. I've been through the system. I work for Trump. What could I be scared of?
That's what I say all the time. People are like, aren't you afraid when you go ghost hunting? I'm like, I saw Trump naked. Nothing fucking scares me.
Yeah, and I've seen him coming out of the shower. So you're worse than me.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to do a quick read because normally my readings take about 20 minutes, and I know we don't have that time. So I'm just going to do a quick one. And I use the Fairy Oracle deck. And the first thing I'm going to do is I cleanse them before with sage, because I do them between each person. You don't want anybody else's germs. It's like using a used condom. So we're just going to shuffle, and I'm going to, I call in whether it's God, universe, whatever speaks to you, because to me it's all energy and it's your reading. So I'm just going to shuffle, and I'm going to ask, the energy or God, universe, what is your message for Michael? What does Michael need to know? All right,
what's
ready?
What's in store for Michael's future? Because everything was taken from me as a direct result of Donald and all of his bullshit. So I am kind of curious to see what the good Lord has in store for my future.
What is your overall message? I'm not looking so nobody thinks I'm cheating. Whoa! Oh, I just got chills. Look how big my deck is. You saw me shuffling, I pulled the honesty card. That's your overall message from the universe. And it just means moving forward to stand in your power and to speak truth. As a matter of fact, just so nobody thinks I'm full of shit, I don't normally do this because I have it memorized, but I'm going to read to you what this card means specifically from the guidebook, which I know what it means, but if anybody wants to look it up so they know that's so crazy. It is the card of honesty, compassion, and getting rid of self-deceit. Perhaps in the past you lied to yourself about doing what you thought was right for the greater good. Honesty in a reading speaks unsurprisingly of the need for straight dealing in truth and representation. You need to be completely honest here, making certain there is no room for confusion or misunderstanding, no fuzzy edges. Both written and verbal agreements need to be completely clear. On a personal level, Michael, honesty reminds us not only to be clear in what we say and do, but act and speak with compassion and tact. Brutal honesty is not actual honesty at all, but somehow slanted towards the worst. Dishonesty in the name of tact is not helpful either. Balancing on that fine line of honesty and love may take some effort, but it will provide you with rich rewards. Humility, idealism, and clarity of mind are some advantages that you will come to see.
Well, there you go. Wow. I honestly, I'm shocked too, because there's a lot of things that are happening.
My face got red. Like I am fucking blown away. Like
it's wild. It's wild, especially in light of some new revelations that will be coming down the pike with the district attorney and the attorney general's cases against Trump, the Trump organization, Weisselberg, Calamari, and so many others. So, yep, I will remain on that path of truth to power. Something I'm actually working on my second book right now, which is a lot of it has to do with that. So well done, Stormy. Well, I mean, really, well done. I want to ask you this.
Oh, hang on. I want to say, just for anybody who might be listening, normally when I do a reading, I do this one card, which is your overall message, but I also do a 3-card spread. So it would be much more in depth. This is like just a very quick little 1-card pull for you.
I'm calling you later to get the other 3 cards. I don't want to get gypped on anything.
I'm going to pull them anyway because I want to know.
Yeah, right. All right. So you're on a reboot of The Surreal Life with Dennis Rodman, who notoriously, flew to North Korea to attempt to broker a peace deal a few years back. Now, let me ask you this question. What's the strangest thing that happened between you and Dennis that you can discuss? Because I actually have a Dennis Rodman story that is also crazy.
You know what? I have to be really careful here because the show hasn't aired yet and I don't want to get into trouble. But I will tell you that there was 8 of us in the house. Dennis, he was not very nice to everyone in the house. And he actually ended up, there were some moments where he couldn't be around anybody. And I was the only person that he did not attack at some point or insult on the show. He stayed pretty far away from me. I didn't have a lot of real one-on-one interactions with him, but it's going to be very interesting to watch. He was a very difficult character for a lot of the people on the show.
Well, don't forget, I had an opportunity to spend some time with Dennis when he was on Celebrity Apprentice. Mm-hmm. And, there were actually 2 things that happened with Dennis. One dealt with Trump and the other was with me. The one with Trump was as follows. First of all, he comes into the office. He asked me to go with him. So we're sitting down and he wants Mr. Trump and myself to fly with him to North Korea to attend a basketball game in honor of his friend, the supreme leader, Kim Jong-un. And Trump was sitting there. This is, of course, before he was president. This is while he was in the early stages of the run. And he turned around and he said to himself, you got to always love the fact that Donald is thinking about Donald. There were a whole slew of detainees, American detainees there in North Korea. So he said, I'll tell you what, you could tell your buddy that I will come, but under one condition. And the condition was that they free these handful of detainees there in North Korea, but he's going to send his private plane, the one that has Trump written on the side of it like a billboard, to fly into North Korea and fly them back out to America so that he could reach, he could meet them on the tarmac and have this whole big hoopla, Donald the Savior. Now, you could imagine Donald's face when Dennis said, no, this is only about basketball. This isn't about politics. To which Trump then said, well, then I don't see any benefit in it for me. And so, I'm not going, not interested. The second one was even crazier. So it was during the shooting of The Apprentice, and Dennis shows up to my office. Now, Dennis actually drinks a lot. He drinks vodka, as I'm sure you saw. It's hard to imagine. It's truly hard to imagine because I've heard that, this is how he has been for a long time, even when he was one of the greatest ball players in the league at the time. So, I'm just amazed he was able to. But he shows up to my office because it had gotten so bad, the drinking, that he was not showing up to shoots and to doing tasks, that they cut him off from the bar downstairs. And he remembered the last time he was in my office that I had a bottle of Trump vodka in my office on my windowsill. And the bottle was signed by Donald. It was like the first bottle that came off the assembly, for that Trump vodka. Right. And he turned around, he comes in, he's wearing this crazy long red wig, and he's wearing a dress and the type of stilettos that you've seen on girls on poles, right? It was the craziest. First of all, he was like 7'4". He had to bend down like 2 feet in order just to get into my office. He plops himself down in the chair and he turns around and he goes, I need that bottle. Now, what are you going to do when Dennis Rodman, who's standing now 7 feet tall, tatted from neck to toe, wants something out of your office? And I said to him, I can't let you have it. First of all, for me, it was a memento. It was like one of the first bottles that came off Donald's sign. He goes, I don't give a shit about the bottle. I just want what's inside of it. I ultimately opened it and gave it to him because he would not leave my office. But, my hope is that, he finds some way to take a little bit of a recess on, the alcohol, because he's actually a great guy when, when he's not hyper aggressive because he's on an alcohol withdrawal. Exactly. He's truly a really great, and he's funny as hell.
Yeah, he's funny. And I think what you're describing is, let me just say, nothing's really changed. The difference between me and you is I did tell him no, and I threatened to climb him and beat his ass.
Yeah, well, that's because he's smart enough. He would never, first of all, he would never hit you. Whereas I was actually concerned that he was going to take it anyway. And, I didn't need to end up in a fight with Dennis, despite the fact that he was walking around with this gigantic, big gulp, and filled up with ice. And he just wanted what was inside that bottle of vodka.
Well, let's just say you probably made the right choice, because I put myself between him and another castmate.
Yeah, I mean he's a big fella, and like I said, I certainly hope that he cuts that back, because he's actually a really nice guy. But I do want to move on and just ask you. You were on CNN with John Berman talking about the New York State and Manhattan DA's investigation into the Trump organization recently. Now, I'm curious if they have reached out to you or to your new lawyer. What information did you save that might be of value to them?
This is in regards to the Avenatti stuff or to Trump?
This is in regard to the Trump matter.
Oh, okay.
And the Trump organization.
I still have not, been contacted. I talked to my attorney a few days ago. So as of a few days ago, he didn't have any updates either, but I'm here and willing and, ready. I've turned over everything. I have everything backed up and saved, I don't know if you saw me on the Hear Me Out, on Vice TV. And it should be coming out online too, because it aired on television a few weeks ago. I got tired of waiting, just like with the hurricane. If somebody's not going to step up and do the right thing, fuck it, I'll do it myself. And I released the video footage and all that stuff of when the false charges were put on my FBI record, and I filmed them. And I got stopped at the border, and no one can tell me how these charges, including the FBI, no one can tell me how they were put on there. Obviously, they were all fake. I didn't release until very recently that I'd filmed it, because I was waiting for, the powers to be to ask me, but no one's come to me. Nobody wants to talk to me. So I released it publicly, because people need to know that someone in power, I'm not going to, was it Trump? Was it someone who worked for him? Who is high enough to get into the computer system above the FBI? Someone with a lot of fucking clearance. And they put 17 false charges on my record, knowing I was going into Canada, and that was supposed to be turned over to Homeland Security. Thankfully, the Border Patrol in Canada recognized that it was all fake, and they made me a temporary resident and stuck me across the border so that I didn't get probably murdered. And I don't normally do this. I'm not the kind of person that demands things and say, do you know who I am? I'm Stormy Daniels. And this is one of those rare times that I said, do you know who I am? Like, if any of these charges were true, it would have been all over the news. And it just makes me very fearful of someone who'd be considered less famous, less identifiable, less recognized. If they were stopped at the border and they tried to say, like, do you know who I am? These are fake. And I mean, has that happened? That should be terrifying for any U.S. citizen, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, pro-Trump, pro-Biden, whatever, like that someone in power could put something on your record, have you detained, and then what happens to you? I was lucky enough that, I said, do you know who I am? I'm Stormy Daniels. And the guy said, yeah. But what if it was just, someone not recognizable, and has it happened before? And that should be utterly terrifying. And I still haven't gotten answers. And that was almost 2 years ago.
Right. So, I was going to ask you, what's happened with that? Is there an investigation going onto it? Is there somebody specifically assigned to that case? One would think that if it shows up on your record and it's fake, somebody has to know who put it in. I'm going to give you a story that happened to me, which you may remember. Your ex-pal over there, Michael Avenatti, paid a guy in San Francisco who was an IRS agent, a guy named Jonathan Fry. Paid him to go into the FinCEN system. That's Financial Crimes Network. Yeah. It is the most sacred of all of these various different websites, because that's how you catch terrorists. That's how you catch money launderers. It's a very, very secure system that specifically states on the bottom that illegal usage of the system, is subject to, fines and incarceration of up to 5 years. Well, your pal over there, Michael, your former pal, right, decides that he's going to pay. All right. Michael Avenatti goes ahead, pays off this guy, Jonathan Fry, and then they release the information to Ronan Farrow, who writes about it. Now, not only did they grab my banking information, but 2 other Michael Cohens as well, one from Toronto, Canada, and one from Israel, right? Simply because this guy didn't have a lot of time. But what bothered me the most is it took over a year before which they finally identified that it came from Jonathan Fry's computer. And I know for a fact, based upon how the system works, all you have to do is look at the keystrokes. They knew after 30 minutes of investigation who had typed my name in, right? Now, maybe because there's other Michael Cohens, maybe 2 other people did it, but they would have seen who downloaded it and downloaded it to an external hard drive, right? And that's really a problem. Now, what bothered me the most is this Jonathan Fry ends up getting probation. That's it. He gets probation. For all I know, he's still working over at the IRS in San Francisco. And it's absolutely illegal what they did. They turn around and they steal your information. In your specific case, they added information. So they have to know who did it. They have to be able to trace back what computer put that information on. Because look, our law enforcement agents are the greatest in the world. Our technology is the greatest there. I mean, they were able to find the guy who was dropping pipe bombs, in some Orlando mailbox, to various different Congress people. And they found it out in under 48 hours. Not only where the guy lived, where he purchased everything, who he was, et cetera, et cetera. Rest assured, this is based on keystrokes. The fact that they have not told you who did it should automatically mandate that Merrick Garland, Lisa Monaco, Department of Justice, they have to look into this shit. You're a civilian. You're a private individual. You just can't do things like that. What movie? I mean, this is like right out of Russian gulag shit.
I haven't told you the best part or the worst part. So I didn't know about these charges. I tried to go into Canada because I had an appearance. I got stopped. They were supposed to turn me over. I got lucky that the agent listened to me and they got me across. But whoever put those charges on my FBI record, which I secretly filmed this entire thing and gave it to Vice TV because it's been 2 years and they haven't talked to me. They won't give me any answers. But whoever put these false charges in my file, it took them how long? A day? It was all the charges, although they said the crimes were committed on different dates, were all entered on the same date. So it took somebody 1 day, 1 hour, 20 minutes to put these on there. It took them four fucking months to take the charges off. I could not fly. I could not work. I could not get into my bank accounts. I could not leave my house because I was afraid. For 4 months, I was basically on fake house arrest. No offense.
No offense taken.
Because I was told, if I got into a car accident or if somebody hit me, it was and they ran my license and I got the wrong officer or the wrong whatever, and I got taken in. So I had imagine living in your house with 17 false FBI charges, afraid to go outside just in case something happened to me and they needed my ID. I was locked. I was a prisoner in my own home. I couldn't do anything. And if it wasn't for my friend Justin, who basically brought me food, I canceled I couldn't do my appearances. I couldn't work. I couldn't fly. I was supposed to go to Iceland for an appearance. I was supposed to go all these places and I couldn't because I was flagged. But how does it take them? You just told me they can do keystrokes. How does it take 1 day for someone to put this on there, and it takes them four months to get it off, and it's been 2 years and they won't tell me anything?
Yeah, so Stormy, forget about how long it takes to get off. They should be able to take it off as quickly as they put it on. In 1 minute, they can verify that the charges are inaccurate. What bothers me more than how long it takes to take it off, the fact that right now, under a democratically controlled, White House, we have Merrick Garland, Lisa Monaco, we have the Department of Justice in there. You have all of these Democrats that are screaming for answers. Yes, answers on January 6th. We need those too. But this isn't just some error on somebody else whose name is Stormy Daniels. This is bullshit, right? And if you really want to figure out just how badly Donald Trump manipulated the Department of Justice, how badly he weaponized the Department of Justice to go after private citizens like yourself, like me, you think it was any different? You think it didn't come from Trump and Bill Barr, the retaliation against me when I went in to get an ankle monitor? I go there with my lawyer, and all of a sudden, this kid Pakula, this woman Ina Gerbis, they start lying, and they put down in affidavits complete lies that says that I was belligerent and that I refused to cooperate. I went there for the purpose of signing papers. My son was waiting in his car outside the courthouse to take me back. Everybody was coming back to my apartment in order to put on the ankle monitor. Why would I? And even the Judge Alvin K. Hellerstein, made an incredible and an accurate decision when he turned around and he said, this is pure retaliation by Bill Barr and the Department of Justice. They knew that I was not going back home. All to what? To stifle my book, Disloyal? Seriously?
Yeah. It's the same. It should terrify people. I know there's a lot of people who dislike you, and that's fine. And I know there's even more people out there who dislike me because I came from porn. So I have a whole subsect of people who hate me for different reasons, and it doesn't matter. Like, you can be the biggest Republican, the biggest Trump supporter, the biggest anti-porn crusader, Christian, whatever. And you can hate me as much as you want, but how can you say that what happened to me was okay? Because it can happen to anyone. And just like with you, and it should not be allowed. And it all goes back to the fact that there was no precedent set for going after a sitting president,
Yeah,
and now
it's so true.
And he thought he was above the law, and the laws that just didn't want to deal with it. And now it's been so traumatic and so long that people don't want to handle it now because everyone has post-traumatic stress, like PTSD. I'm convinced they just want to forget about it. They don't want to pursue it. They just want it to go away because they're exhausted. But here are people like you and people like me, we're still dealing with it. Like, I still have court cases. I still, Avenatti isn't Trump, but I wouldn't have been involved with him if it wasn't for the other thing. And that, that's happening January 10th. And people just don't want to listen or hear it out. They just want it to go away. But he committed wire fraud and forged my signature. And
we're going to get to that. We're actually going to get to that in the next question. But I think the actual term is PTTD. It's post-traumatic Trump disorder. Absolutely. Right. So let me jump on to Michael Avenatti for a second. He was sentenced in July to 2.5 years in prison for trying to extort $25 million from Nike. Now, this is after, as you just stated, he embezzled your money and for which you are now suing him. Has that case made any further headway? Because I understand that he stole over $300,000 from you, and he did that by forging your signature, and that he had the publisher send the checks to him as your representative, and then making some allegation that you owed him this money. Can you enlighten me on this?
Okay. So the payments were, obviously broken up, and they were supposed to be sent to me. And I got my first two, no issue. They were sent directly to me from the publisher per our contract. Then I stopped. I didn't get my other two payments, and they weren't talking to me. Long story short, he made a document that said, because I was going through a divorce, that I had requested that the publisher just send all of my checks directly to him. And he forged my signature and gave them his wiring information. When I found this out and confronted him, when they weren't paying me and I'm like, my payments are late, I have hundreds of text messages and WhatsApp messages from him saying, I'll have to go after them. They're saying, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, he had already cashed my check. They thought they had paid me. They're like, finally, when I reached the owner on her cell phone, which I eventually got that number, she could not believe what I was saying. She was like, I paid you early because we were happy. He had my money for months, and every day I was like, my check didn't come. What the fuck? He had already cashed it and spent it, and it was lying to me. Hundreds of text messages. So it's very obvious. And I honestly don't know how much I'm owed because it's all tied up.
No. Hold on. Was that because my book, Disloyal, did very well as well, as did yours. They can tell you exactly how many books that
Yeah,
they
but they're
sold through that system.
No, they're waiting because it's tied up in legality. So I don't know if I'm owed 300,000 or 3 million. I honestly have no idea because it's all sort of in a holding pattern, and I don't know what's going to happen. But he committed, like, he lied to me every single day about it, you know. And then he comes up with some crazy story that I owed it to him anyway because of our deal. Well, let me tell you right now, Michael, he got paid before I did for the book because he got a finder's fee. He was paid directly from the publisher. He was never entitled to another percentage. As a matter of fact, I have messages from him specifically saying that he wasn't going to take it. You know, you're not allowed to create a deal in your mind. You're an attorney, you know. You can't just be like, well, I think she owes me this retro, you know what I mean? And take it. And he's literally, in his mind, he thinks he's owed that money, even though he was paid a commission up front. And we never had.
By the way, didn't he do the exact same thing to that paraplegic for several millions of dollars? The guy needed money to live, and he said the money hasn't come in from the insurance carrier as of yet.
And he thought he spent.
And he said, well, I could loan you money, but if I loan you money by law, I have to loan it to you with interest. And he was basically giving the guy his own money. And this is now, mind you, I understand that tomorrow, and I may be wrong, but I understand that tomorrow he's supposed to surrender to prison in Oregon. And then sometime a month later is when the trial begins again in California, either on your case or on these other individuals who he robbed. You know, it's funny because he was so fast to jump on television. And anytime my name came up, right, you know, I'm a thug, I'm a thief, I'm a horrible scumbag of a human being, you know, I'm a shitty lawyer. In all fairness, what he was doing is exactly the same as what Trump does. He's deflecting. Because, by the way, I never took $1 from anyone in my entire life. I don't owe any money to anyone. Even Judge Pauly recognized this, that I don't owe any money to any institution or any individual ever, right? In fact, I'm the only person that paid out money that ended up going to jail, if you think about it.
You're welcome.
Yes, and you got it. Boom.
But here's something else interesting. Did you know about this? He's so desperate and grasping at straws. Did you see the filings from Avenatti to the court saying that all of my evidence, and I shouldn't be allowed to testify, and all of my evidence should be thrown out because I work in paranormal? Just pulling these cards for you, he's using it against me and saying I'm crazy, I'm a witch. It's a literal modern day witch hunt. He's trying to say because I work on a paranormal ghost hunting television show that I'm crazy and I speak like I shouldn't be a reputable witness. It's the only time I've seen the other side try to use insanity.
Stormy, here's the nice thing. I'm sorry, right? Facts are facts. You have the facts, and you will be able to, just like everybody else he stole money from, whether it was Patrick Dempsey all the way to Stormy Daniels. I want to ask you though, because I brought up the part about, you know, the stealing of my personal information and then him giving it to Ronan Farrow. Did you ever know anything about that? Did he ever discuss any of that shit with you? No.
No.
Did he ever bring up my name to you?
Oh, every day.
Saying what?
All of the things you just said, that you were a thug and you were behind all of it. And he tried to tell me that you hired the person that came into the parking lot, but I don't even think you worked for Trump yet.
I did. It was years before I even started working for Trump. And by the way, I want to look you right into the face, and because you pulled the honesty card, right? Not only did I not have any involvement in, I didn't even know until you made that announcement, or he made the announcement on television. I had never even heard that story before. And that's the truth. Yeah,
I don't think we'll ever get an answer to that. But I mean, it is what it is, I guess. I think it came from the publisher of the first. I don't know. I'm not going to make allegations because I'll just get in more trouble. But I think the craziest story he ever told me about you was, there's a photo of you that he had where you're having lunch with some men that I don't know who they are, but he said they were Russian mobsters and you were like doing another deal like you did to hire the person to come after me.
That would be an absolute lie. The only time that I saw him, I was having dinner with my son and a friend of mine and his son at Scalinatella here, an Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know what, again, the guy has an imagination that's almost as big as his ego. And that's what really got him so fucked up. And you know what? He deserves it. I do want to ask you, though, with the FEC's dismissal of your case and mine against Trump earlier this year, I'm curious if there were any other legal remedies available to you to explore against the former president and his actions and his words towards you. Or is that dead and over?
It's not dead and over. I'm not letting it go. I will not be bullied. I am not an attorney. I leave that to BLOCKBUSTER. He's a brilliant man at what he does. He's fair and great. And I don't know all the correct language because, like I said, I'm not an attorney. But I do know that he has another briefing, like he's been briefing at, and there's another something. And it's not dead in the water. We're moving forward with appealing it. You know, the judgment, it's still up in the air. I have no intention to ever pay that because it's bullshit. I will set fire to all of my money and everything I own in my backyard before I write that orange monster a single check. Don't think I won't. I'm moving it with you.
Yeah. Well, look, you know, I have my lawsuit against Trump and the Trump organization for all of the legal expenses. I mean, the funny thing is when it came to the NDA that I had prepared with Keith Davidson. You know, it's funny. People think that, you know, I was constantly in contact with you and that I was harassing you. I mean, because this is how Avenatti described it. In fact, true or not, right? And I want you to say, right, this the truth. Prior to, I think, you know, your appearance on Mea Culpa the first time, that was the first time we've actually ever even seen each other, except for that one time when we passed each other, right, at LaGuardia Airport. I didn't even know it was you. First of all, I don't see very well, and I just saw somebody, you were covered by like 6 guys that must have been, you know, 6 feet tall each, right? So I didn't get to see even who it was, and it was a distance, and I was tired from a flight, and I was waiting for my suitcases at Carousel C. But, you know, it's, to me, the whole thing is just crazy that he directed me to speak to counsel to file an injunction against you from appearing on 60 Minutes.
Right.
Why is that? Why is that my legal responsibility? Why am I the insurance company or the payor of Donald Trump's, you know, legal fees? And we're just waiting now for the judge's decision. The third time they made a motion for summary judgment, the first 2 they lost. And once this third one goes through, then I'm finally going to be able to move on and we're going to end up noticing for trial based upon all of the damages. But it's crazy. I mean, and I hope you don't have to. I hope that your lawyer does right by you. And I hope the judge, you know, hears this, and I hope that the judge does right by it, because nobody should ever have to pay Trump for his lies and for his defamation and the things that he says. And he doesn't even care. He hopes that what he says about you, he hopes that it hurts you. He hopes that it wrecks your life, because that's the type of person he is. He's miserable in his own skin, and he wants everyone to be miserable in theirs.
I mean, it just goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It shouldn't matter if you're, you know, if you love me or hate me or what political affiliation you are. It should terrify somebody that a sitting president can say whatever he wants and not be held accountable. You know, if Trump had just been like, she's fat, she's a bitch, she's a whore, she's ugly, I don't like her. Fine, that's your opinion. As the president of the United States, perhaps you should not be tweeting that you think I look like a horse face, especially since it sort of implies that you're into bestiality since you're so about me, but I digress. But what you cannot do is call somebody a liar when I've proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that I'm not. Like, you're backing me up as well. Like, I did not lie about anything. But you can call somebody, I can be like, Michael, I think you're ugly. And you'd be like, okay, but if I said, Michael, you're a car thief, or you're, you know, that's different. One is actual slander. It's, you know, it's defamation because you're saying something that's not true. The other is an opinion. You're entitled to your own opinion. But you're not allowed to say that you know, once he said I was a liar, that unleashed all of his followers and people not to trust me, when it's crazy because clearly I didn't lie about anything.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. There's a joke that's going around Twitter about the fact that Trump commentated a celebrity boxing match on Saturday night, which happens to be the 20th anniversary of September 11th. And the match that he and Don Jr. and somebody commentated on lasted all of 81 seconds, for which Trump remarked, "That was pathetic." And for which Stormy Daniels is said to have remarked, "I've seen worse." Is he still in your books as the all-time worst sex that you've ever had?
Okay, so first of all, I didn't actually say that because I didn't know about it, but I would have for sure. It's really funny. It does sound snarky like me. And yes, of course, it's hands down the worst. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to challenge the universe by saying it couldn't possibly get worse, because then a troll might knock on my door, but or an uglier, never mind. Yeah, it was the worst for sure.
Because the last time you were on, you said that the whole thing was like the worst 30 seconds of your life. In fact, that would be less than half of how long that this boxing match took place.
Exactly. And was the boxing match at least a knockout? Because this certainly wasn't.
It was it was a technical knockout. So look, let me ask you this then. As an award-winning adult film director, and that you've made, I mean, dozens and dozens of titles, are there any plans to do a series about Trump? And if so, what are they?
Horror
Can you
porn
give us a little
doesn't sell.
sneak?
No, horror porn doesn't sell. I tried to make a scary adult film one time and it didn't do great. So I already know, like, you know, besides, it wouldn't even be a full-length movie. It'd be like a commercial. There's not enough footage.
Well, okay. So then I read a recent item that, what's that?
I said, but no.
Okay. Well, that's good for Trump to know. So I read a recent item that you were being considered for Meghan McCain's spot on The View. Is that a job that you would want? And who would you most want to interview if you actually became one of the cast members?
Okay, so I think I would be really into it for a short period of time. I think I would be pretty good at it. I like, you know, I've learned a lot. I think I'm fair. It was one of my favorite shows that I did go on. I think it would be very educational. I'd have a good time. I think the lack of creativity, because I like to do like creative movies, I think I would get bored. So I'd maybe want to do a guest spot. I wouldn't want to be actually part of the show long term. And if I could, I would want, you know what? Fuck it. I want to interview Melania. Will they get me a translator?
Well, she speaks English.
Questionable. Yeah.
I very want to sit down and talk to Stormy Daniels because she's porn hooker.
Exactly.
Right? You heard that? Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
No, you gotta love that. But I have noticed on your Twitter feed that you still get significant harassment from MAGA losers who, for whatever reason, you know, they think that you make some easy target. They obviously don't know you. What has been the strangest encounter that you've had from one of these, you know, from one of these folks?
Oh my God, I have an answer for this. It's so strange. I thought that I had seen it all in the last, you know, even pre the last several years, just being in the adult business.
Stormy, I'm sure you've seen them. I'm sure you've seen it all.
I thought I had. Since I started doing the hurricane relief stuff, I am amazed that, I mean, I've gotten a lot of support. I don't want to put it out there that sounds like I didn't. I've gotten thousands of support messages. People have donated, people have come out, people have helped. It's been really, really amazing. It restored a tiny little bit of my faith in humanity. But I will tell you that there was a handful of people that just went crazy on me. One of them was this chick on my Facebook, some girl named Taylor Dawn or Dawn Taylor, and she's legit. I thought it was a troll account. I'm not kidding. I could send it to you. She spent days every time I put up a post like, oh, the donations we need today are diaper size this or this kind of water or hammers and nails, whatever these specific things were that we needed. She would just, nobody likes you. The city of Homa doesn't want you to donate. The entire city of Homa hates you. If you show up here, we're going to kill you. If you show up here, I'm going to have you turned into Homeland Security. First of all, that's not even a thing. This is not an airport, bitch. And then she's like, you got to stay out of the, you know, it's illegal for you to go into the hurricane zone. I'm like, I live here. Like, this is my house. Like, I'm not going but she just was relentless on talking about this stuff. And then there was another one too I'm sure you saw it on my Twitter, where this guy just spent the entire day bashing me every time I put up a post asking for, you know, supplies or help. And he just clogged up my feed. It takes a special kind of a monster to not want somebody to help somebody no matter what. Like, you legit think that these people should not get water or supplies or food because it came through me. I guess we should
you gotta love it. And you should ask both of them. Yeah, next time ask both of them what they've done to help their neighbor.
Exactly. Because all my neighbors were very happy to see me.
That's believe me, they were, and they're very appreciative too. And it makes no difference what you do for a living. You're out there, you're helping people, and that's that. They don't like the movies, don't watch them, but they will take the diapers, the water, the food, because they need the help, and you were there to give it to them. So
there wasn't a single person.
Shame on these other folks.
Yeah, there wasn't a single person who stood in line that I handed a plate of food to that said, "No thanks, I don't want that plate because you handed it to me." Quite the opposite, actually. So
let me ask you a question though. Because I'm curious about something. Have you ever heard, or were you ever contacted from any other GOP politician?
No.
No? It's shocking. Because so many of them do so many stupid things for Donald. I was certain that somebody would have reached out to you and said, look, we have all of this money that we've grifted off of our idiot supporters, and here's $1 million. Just shut up. This time you're going to have to really abide by the so-called NDA. I'm shocked none of them reached out to you. Well, I'm happy to hear that, though. But there have also been rumblings of Trump running again in 2024. Is there anything from your one-night stand and subsequent hush money payment from the former guy that might help in preventing his candidacy? Is there anything unique that you can tell my listeners?
I mean, we've been over it so many times. He's a monster. He'll do and say anything. He needs this card, but I don't think it's possible. He needs the honesty card. I will say that I hate to cut him any slack whatsoever. It pains me, but I will tell you that the conversations that I had with him back in 2006 are very different than listening to him speak today. I really hope that he sees a doctor, because he was obnoxious and an asshole and all of those things, but the conversations, at least they were complete sentences and actual words. It seems, he's losing some of his faculty, you know what I'm saying?
His cognitive skills, his cognitive abilities.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that to be cruel. That's just an actual personal observation. I sat in that room with him at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and he made several phone calls, and the context of those calls were pretty horrifying. They're in the book. He was making racist jokes and this and that and conspiring, but the context was terrifying enough. But at least it was cohesive sentences. It made sense what he was saying. Now it seems he seems a little out of it.
Yeah, I think it's more than just his cognitive abilities that are being affected right now because of whether it's age or poor diet or what have you. I think he's also extremely nervous. He's very nervous about what's going to happen with the Trump organization now that it's under indictment. Alan Weisselberg, very soon to be Matt Calamari, potentially the kids, Jared himself, and others, Rudy Giuliani, now that you also saw what's going on with that whole Lev Parnas case and so on. So I think that a lot of it is also the fact that he's scared shitless and he just doesn't know how to handle it because he's never been in that position where he didn't have someone like myself or others protecting him. But I am curious about something. I know from following your Twitter feed that you're really a keen political watcher. And I am curious what your take is on the state of Texas's new medieval abortion law that outlaws the procedure after 6 weeks and empowers a system of bounty hunters to turn in anyone who has helped a woman get a procedure, from whether it's an Uber driver to your aunt to a Planned Parenthood, clinician. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't even know if I can find the words to describe this. I'm so glad I moved back to Louisiana because I was living in Texas for quite a while.
That's why I've asked.
What in the actual fuck? So the best part is I just came from Texas this past weekend. I was there visiting my daughter, and there's absolutely no mask mandate whatsoever. I didn't see a single mask the whole time I was there. So there's this running joke, like, you can't have an abortion, but if you change your mind later, your kid doesn't have to wear the mask. Like they don't want anybody to tell them what to do with their faces, but they will tell anybody what to do with their reproductive system. I mean, it is absolutely insane. I didn't pay too much attention to it when it was first happening, which is my bad, because I didn't think there was any way something like that would pass, and I just can't find the words. And I want to encourage all business, there are some pretty cool musicians and performers that have started saying they won't go into Texas. And that's, Texas is big. That's a big market. So I have a lot of respect for any like bands or musicians or artists or stand-up comics who said like, fuck Texas, we're not going there. We need to get together. We need to organize and do something because it's going to spread. But a lot of people don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks. I can't even, you look at me, I'm speechless. Have you ever seen me be speechless? I can't even fathom that this is really happening. This is,
Nope. Never seen you speechless.
I have no words, but it is incredibly wrong. And let's hope that it gets reversed or over. I don't know. I put on my Twitter the other day, I think it was Twitter, or maybe it was something somewhere on social media, that I was glad that I didn't live in Texas anymore, but I'm still close enough to give anybody a ride if they need an emergency vacation. If you know what I mean, because this is just crazy.
Yeah, but then they would end up pulling you in as being an assistant, assisting somebody in, the violation of this SB 8, abortion law. It's really disgraceful. But Stormy, like I told you at the beginning,
I'm not scared. Yeah. You can't scare me.
That is true. You are not. But like I said to you at the beginning, the hour goes by quick. So I have literally one last question for you. I find it ironic that the GOP has these draconian laws in place, but they're also the ones with the most linked sex scandals, from Trump all the way on down to that pathetic piece of shit, Matt Gaetz, right? Who's being investigated for underage sex trafficking. Did you ever get a message from Gaetz or encounter him in all of your travels?
No. I'm of age. I'm too old.
Yeah, that's probably true. He's still looking for his prom date. Look, Stormy, like I've said to you before, I mean, I think, what you did with Hurricane, Ida is really super special. Is there any specific charity that you are affiliated with in order? I'm sure there are still people that must need help.
There is.
As a result.
This is one of the things that I have run into in the past is a lot of people won't work with me, or they'll send money back because they don't want to be affiliated with, at first it was the adult business, and now of course it's the whole political stuff. So we just did it ourselves, and I can't continue to do this. I go back to work next week. I'll actually be in Miami this weekend for an event, and then, I'm traveling. But I will tell you that Courtyard Brewery, they do have a Venmo. I personally vouched for the man who owns it. He was my neighbor for a long time. I physically filled a box truck with donations. They're going directly to the people. There's no middleman. There's no talk of somebody skimming. And then if anybody who comes to New Orleans, when we get this shit cleared up, or anybody who lives here, I just ask, if you really want to give back, go to these two businesses that gave away everything. I don't need anything. I'm not a charity organization. I was just helping get the word out and delivering stuff and doing what I could as a good person, as a good neighbor and fellow human in the community. But there, the Bayou parishes, and for those that don't know, a parish is basically a county. The Bayou parishes still don't have power down there. It's still a mess. It's going to be a long road for them. So don't forget about New Orleans and New York got all the attention, but don't forget about the other places, and just thanks to everybody who helped, everybody who donated and retweeted and sent the word out and sent Venmo and helped. It was really inspiring to see people really band together.
Can you tell my folks the Venmo account and how to do it?
It is at NOLA, all caps, hold on, here it is. I don't know if you can see it.
Nope, can't see it, but Anyway, I'm sure my folks will listen and hopefully they'll donate. And I want to thank you. I want to wish you good luck.
And that does not go to my bank account. I want to make it very clear. It has nothing to do with me. I'm not even going to be here after next week, but that's the person that I trust.
And I still want to wish you good luck in your upcoming case against Avenatti. I hope that you're able to get your money back. It's your money. You wrote the book. It should have been in your account, not his. So I wish you all the best. If there's anything that you need from me, please call me right away. And I'm probably going to ask you to join me as I'm going to do a virtual party on the end of my 86 days left for this Cohen confinement calendar. I'm going to ask Rosie. I'm going to ask, Ben Stiller again and Alyssa Milano and a bunch of the other political guys that you see on TV. We're going to make a whole big party out of it so that all of my listeners and all those that follow me as well on Twitter will be able to, join me in this, crusade for truth and for honesty. So, Stormy, thank you.
Thank you for having me, Michael. Hang in there.
I'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Bye.